What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all having a lovely, lovely day. I hope it gets even better from watching this video. Today we're chatting all about my sort of dating rules / guidelines. I want you to come out of this video being like, okay, I know my worth. I'm gonna stop chasing these men I have no business chasing. We're gonna talk about how you're gonna stop being the one who's picked and you're gonna start choosing. We're going to talk about how to stop being convenient and just be who you are, know what you want, stand your ground. We're going to chat about how to deal with behaviors you don't like, how to act, what to say, that sort of a thing. 2 disclaimers I want to put out, and we'll get through those really quickly. Number 1, I am coming from a place of dating men for the most part. So that's the context. I believe in masculine and feminine energy, and I think every relationship has that polarity, or at least most, no matter if it's like a straight relationship or not. I think there are so many misconceptions when it comes to what feminine energy actually is, and I do want to talk about that. It is not being weak, first of all, and it is not being a 1950s housewife. I don't know where we got that from, but that is ridiculous. We'll chat a little bit about that, but if you want a whole other video about feminine energy and how to kind of step into it and what it is, let me know. I'll gladly make a whole video about it. Disclaimer number 2, anytime anyone shares any sort of dating advice of how to act or what to say or how to be when it comes to dating, there's always comments like, oh, I just want to be myself. I don't want to play any games. And sure, who am I to tell you what to do and what not to do with your life? You can do whatever you want. But I assume that most of us that are watching this kind of content are coming from a place of not being very healthy when it comes to relationships and dating. Maybe we've experienced whatever in our childhoods and we are, let's say, anxiously attached, or we're insecure, we don't see our worth, we go for the wrong guys. I would like to think that that is not who I am, or at least it's not who I want to be. And I think these tips are how to better yourself so that you can get what you want. Because I assume the behavior you've been in hasn't gotten you what you want, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this. And that is something I personally experienced. I did a lot of toxic dating. I was in a lot of toxic situationships, relationships, you name it, I've experienced it. I then took a year off dating and I was single on purpose, and I really took that year to learn about these patterns and start to heal them. And I'm now in a healthy, happy, long-term committed relationship that I've always wanted. And so this is kind of coming from that place of someone who has been through it and is now on the other side. And this is something that I would do if I had to start from scratch. I'm Nika, by the way. I like to make content like this, just chatting about things that are important in the self-development space. And I like to make my advice and my videos super actionable so that when you're done watching it, you're like, okay, I can implement this, I can do this exercise, and I can start today, because that's just something that works for me. So I hope it works for you as well. And if it's up your alley, I would love for you to stick around and subscribe and check out my other social media for more content like this. Alrighty, that was a little long, but let's jump right into it. Okay, step number 1, and I think the most crucial one, is we're gonna uncover your worth. Because what is this business of you chasing people or trying to convince people to be with you or to want you or to love you? That ends today, and it can end today. And I'm hoping that these things that I'm about to say that helped me flip that switch are gonna help you as well, because then you don't have to keep convincing yourself like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be chasing this person, like I know it's not good for me, it's not gonna get me what I want, but I just cannot stop. We're gonna end this so that naturally you're not even interested in people like that anymore. That is the goal. Okay, so usually people, especially men, are very honest. It might not be through what they're saying, but it's definitely through what they're doing. So they might say like, I don't want a relationship right now, or I'm not looking for anything serious, but most likely they're just not putting in as much effort. So they're not making the time to see you, you're not any kind of priority, they don't really care to check in with you, you kind of need to chase them to make anything happen. That means, and I hate to say it, I know it sucks to hear, but it means that they're not interested in that way. They don't want you in that way. They don't want a relationship with you. Because when anyone wants to be with you, especially a man, they will make it very obvious. Like, this will not be something hard to decode or something you need to convince yourself and find loopholes of, oh, but he did text me last Friday to say that he misses me, so he must care. Like, it won't even be a question, does he like me, does he want to be with me or not? It's very, very obvious, because why wouldn't he make it obvious if that is what he wants? You know, it's very simple. But if we are in this pattern of chasing people that we know deep down don't want us. It comes from somewhere, obviously. It might be that your dad didn't have time for you, so you kept just kind of scraping for some love and attention. Maybe you were bullied early on in childhood. Maybe you just didn't feel loved and like you belong in your family. Whatever it might be, there are 100 different types of stories, but they all lead to the same place, which is you not believing that who you are is good enough and worthy enough to be loved just for who you are. And now you're out here convincing these random Chads or Brads or whoever that no, I am actually good enough, I am actually lovable. And by you convincing them that you are, and if you actually get to the point where you convince them, which you usually never do, but if you magically make that happen, then you're like, I am lovable because Chad here loves me. And that is what you're doing subconsciously. Like you're trying to convince yourself of something that you should do within yourself that has no business being something that you're trying to achieve outside of yourself by Chad loving you, you know? So if that already doesn't flip a switch of you just knowing this is what I'm doing, this is my pattern, I'm trying to convince people to love me because I don't believe deep down that I'm lovable, then please pause this video right now, get a picture of yourself when you were a little kid, whichever one like speaks to you and you just feel like, oh, I love this little kid. Pick that one. So now that you have this picture, imagine that this child is like with you all the time. And obviously you want the best for this child. It's an innocent little kid that has done absolutely nothing to deserve whatever has happened to him, okay? You have this Chad guy over here who's showing you all the ways in which you are not lovable and is just confirming these feelings for you. Does this little kid deserve that? Yeah, I'm gonna choose Chad anyway because you're not lovable. No, that is not what we're doing. Of course, you want this child to feel like they're loved and they're amazing the way they are. So you need to start protecting this child and choosing for them if you cannot do it for yourself now as an adult. And you can put this photo on your wall so that you see it all the time as a reminder. You can put it as your screensaver on your phone. You can put it as a picture when Chad texts you of like, no, we're not doing this anymore because this little Nika doesn't deserve this. She's experienced enough of that and this chapter has closed. I am not doing that to her anymore. I like to view worth as like we all have the same amount of worth that we come into this world with. It doesn't matter how pretty you are, how smart you are, how many people you have in your life. It doesn't matter. We all have the same amount. And if you imagine a window, imagine that light coming into the window as your worth. And so it's coming into every window everywhere. It shines all the time, let's just imagine. And for the people who have low self-worth, their windows are just dirty. So the light is still there. It can still come through, but you just need to clean the window. And I recommend you watch my video about confidence. I'll link it down below. That will give you a lot of different tips and tricks and exercises to kind of start to see your own worth if you want to check that out. I want to give you another analogy just to really hammer this in because I know how difficult it is to actually start believing that you are worthy and loving. And of course it's going to be difficult. Like if you grew up in an environment where this was constantly confirmed, like no, you're not lovable as who you are. You need to be this way. You need to achieve this. You need to be that way, blah, blah, blah. Of course you believe that you don't have any worth. Like, why wouldn't you? Anyone who would experience the things that you have experienced would get to this exact point. And I know because I've been there. Trust me. And you can choose today to stop that cycle. And I know it will take time for it to actually become a new pattern, but you can start today. So the analogy is, let's imagine Hermes, right? The designer, really expensive store that has really expensive bags. They're called Birkins, okay? From my understanding, Birkins are like around $20,000 or way more than that, which means, you know, you would think they're worthy and you would think Hermes as a brand has a lot of worth because it has a lot of value and not everyone can afford them. You usually obviously need to have a lot of money. So it's this high thing that people want to achieve and want to have. Let's say Hermes gets a new CEO and that CEO doesn't understand the value of Hermes. So he gets people to stand in front of their stores with a poster saying, please come into our store. And you see it and you're like, that's weird. Why would Hermes want me to be in a store? Like, I cannot afford this. But you're curious. You've never been into the store before. So you go in and then you see Birkins being like 20 euros. And you're like, okay, very strange. You might buy one because you're like, oh my God, it's a Birkin. But will that Birkin keep its value? Of course not. It will no longer be this thing people desire, this like exclusive thing people want. The people who bought Birkins as an investment will lose all their money because they completely lost their value. So you would assume that Hermes is communicating that they no longer have any value, or that their value is much lower than it used to be. And they're not directly saying this to you. They're not like, we have no value. But with everything that they're doing, with their actions, they're showing you there's no value to this brand anymore. And if you have a very low value in yourself and a low self-worth, that is what you're doing. And usually how it comes out the most is in your dating life. Like usually that is where those insecurities are pulled out of you the most, where those toxic patterns really shine. And that is what you're doing. You're standing out there with your poster of like, please someone want me, please chat, love me, please reply to me. There's no self-worth, and that is very unattractive. And there is no shame in wanting to be attractive to men. If this gets you to finally realize your self-worth and start working on yourself, who cares? Genuinely, I don't know why it's like embarrassing or shameful to want to be attractive to men. If you want to be in a relationship with a man, like, I don't get it. But anyway, and this is the last thing I want to say on this topic, if you're still like, no, I need to convince Chad to love me. Let's say you convince him not to love you, but just to commit to you because you've gone on and on and on. And let's say you magically made it happen, which rarely happens. But let's say you didn't. What kind of a relationship is that going to be? Are you going to feel loved for who you are? Are you going to feel like you're super worthy and like you're this amazing person that he sees and loves and admires? No, you're going to have to keep convincing him. And that is not a nice relationship to be in. It's going to keep confirming these feelings that you have inside of you, these insecurities that you have, that you are not lovable or worthy or whatever. And if you have to think long term, how is this going to look in a committed relationship 3 years down the line, then do that, because it can help. Because you're like, no, that sounds awful. Sounds like a train wreck. And you're going to keep feeling this way. It's not just going to magically disappear if he commits, because you still had to convince him and you were going to have to keep doing it. And I assume that is not what you want. I assume you want to be with someone who's actually going to love you and respect you and see you as this amazing person that you are. And first you need to start seeing that in yourself. Okay, let's move on. Step number 2, let men do the work. Let men do the thing they naturally do best, which is achieve, hunt, conquer, chase, however you want to slice that cake. Masculine energy thrives and it gets their confidence in that way. If you don't believe me, go to my confidence video and find a comment, I might put it up here, of a guy being like, oh, these tips are good, or like, they might increase your happiness, but the way you get confident is by achieving. And I wrote to him like, I agree that achieving things builds confidence, but I think to base your entire confidence on that is a very masculine thing, and it works for men, but it doesn't work for most feminine women. Because just imagine a compliment. So men value compliments that have to do with their achievements the most. So if a guy pumps your tires, you're like, oh my God, I love it when you pump my tires. You're so good at it. It's like talking to a toddler sometimes. Imagine him complimenting you on the things that you do in the household. Like, oh my God, I love the way you clean for us. If you weren't offended, you would be like, okay, well, thanks, I guess. Like, it wouldn't feel like an amazing compliment. Like, imagine your girlfriend's complimenting you. Like, oh my God, I love your hair today, or I love how you're always there for me, or I love, it's more about who you are, and it's not that much about what you do. Of course, doing things, achieving things feels good for a lot of women as well. We all have feminine and masculine energy. So yeah, it makes men feel good to chase, to conquer, to whatever. Doing stuff for you, doing things in general, working to get you makes men feel good. It builds their confidence. And you can look back in history, not that that's a good example of feminine and masculine energy that's healthy, but you can see how men have naturally done this for centuries. Even in the animal kingdom, I don't think I've ever seen, and I've watched a lot of animal documentaries, a species where the female is working to get the male. It's usually the male bird doing some sort of performance with its wings or dance or whatever to get the female's attention. Or there's many birds stacking sticks in a particular way to get her to choose one. That is nature. And of course, we're more developed than a bird. I get it. But is our nature, our biology more developed than that? I don't think so. And this might be controversial. We still have those natural instincts. We still have a survival instinct, a need to survive, and that caveman brain is still in there. And we can pretend that it's not, but so far it is. So we can either use it to our advantage or we can ignore it and do whatever you want, of course. So yeah, let men do what they do best naturally. It doesn't usually work the opposite way of you chasing them. It's usually very unattractive to men unless he's a very feminine man and you're a very masculine woman and that works for you and that's the type of dynamic and relationship you want. Of course, go for it. Do what makes you happy. But for the most case, men feel amazing. They feel masculine. They feel confident when they achieve something. Step number 3, we're continuing on this train. Stop being so convenient. And this is so hard for us as women to understand because we've been taught since we were born to be a good girl, to be easy to take care of. Oh, are you gonna be a good girl for mommy today? And I feel like this is even more the case if you come from an Eastern European culture, which is where I come from. This is hammered in us. You're gonna stop being the girl who's being picked and you're gonna start choosing. And from what we've learned in step number 2 about men and the masculine energy, and feel free to ask the men around you, the men that are actually confident and living their best life and dating amazing women, ask those men, not losers, please, because do you want to date a loser? Probably not. They naturally hunt, conquer, achieve, chase. So they're going to be happy to chase someone. And what that represents when you're not as convenient, when you're not super easy to get, is that you have high value. Again, going back to that Hermes example, you are someone who's hard to get and you're not playing hard to get. You are hard to get. You are someone who's choosing them and you want them to show you who they are. And then you're making a decision like that bird, female bird, watching male birds put together sticks and then choosing the one that they like the best, the one that's going to give them what they want. So this whole good girl complex, being super convenient, being okay with everything. Oh, I feel bad about this, but whatever, you can just do whatever you want because I'm so easy and convenient and I'm a good girl. What has that ever gotten you? Is that going to make you feel like you're being loved for who you are and you're being respected and you're being, an equal partner in this relationship? I don't mean equal as you bring the same things to the table, but the value of what you bring is equal. It's not going to give you that because you're going to be afraid to communicate what you want. You're not going to be who you are. So how are you going to feel that you're being loved for who you are if you're scared to actually show that? So let's stop being so convenient. When you're dating a guy, when he texts you like, oh, do you want to get sushi? And you don't like sushi, don't say, oh yeah, I would love that. No, you don't like sushi. You wouldn't love that. Are you insane? Are you going to sit there the whole time and pretend you like sushi? No. Why are you doing that? Text him back, oh, I actually don't really like sushi. Don't apologize. Don't be like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't like sushi. Why are you apologizing? Why are you sorry for the things you like, you don't like, for who you are, for who you're not? Being super convenient and that good girl is actually not very attractive to masculine men because, again, they don't have to do much work to get you. And that doesn't build confidence. It doesn't make them feel good about themselves. It just doesn't give them what they need. So in the sushi example, text them, oh, I actually don't really like sushi, but I'd be down for Mexican or Indian. Done. And then he can be like, oh, actually, no, a good restaurant. Do you want to go here? Yes, great. And he can make the plans. So we're not going to play hard to get. We will be hard to get because you have your own life, you have your own interests, you're working on yourself, you're doing things that make you happy, you have your own hobbies, your own people that you love. Like, your life is not on pause because this guy is suddenly interested in you. No, you're continuing with all those things. You're very strong in your needs, your boundaries, you know what you want, and he can work towards having you if that's what he wants. If this is hard for you to grasp, like, imagine you're this goddess that people are just worshiping for who she is, for her beauty, for what she represents. That is the vibes we're going for. So don't play hard to get, be hard to get, and don't go out of your way to be convenient because we have our own life. We've got our own things going on. So we're not going to be super convenient because if you want to hang out on Tuesday at 10 p.m., I have plans all day. I've got things to do all day. I don't have the energy to meet you at 10 p.m., but we can meet up on Saturday. I'm free then. Guys and the type of guy that you want, like that. And you're just gonna have to start doing it to really realize that that's what they like and that's what they're really attracted towards. Because I know we've been taught the opposite because we need to be good girls. Tip number 4, we're gonna piggyback off of the last one. Dating is vetting. You're there, you're a goddess on your throne, being amazing, doing what you're doing, and you're observing what he's doing, how he's acting, if that's something you want, if you think that's gonna give you the relationship that you want, and you're believing what he's showing you. Pay attention to what he's doing. Pay attention to Chad over there with his red flags and his whatever, because I'm in my little goddess throne and you're coming in my space and this is a temple and I want only the best in here. So you're gonna stop controlling the scenario and the outcome. So if Chad over there is not putting in the effort and you're always the one who's texting first and making plans because otherwise nothing's gonna happen, take a step back and see what he does. If he does absolutely nothing, he's not for you. Why would you want someone who's not even gonna try to have you? Because you have value. You're on your throne as a goddess. And Chad over there is doing absolutely nothing. And so he can leave. Also, don't commit too soon. After 2 dates, you don't know the person. You don't know if they can give you what you want, what you need. You don't know if they're gonna add to the happiness you already have. And if you're in this amazing space where you're working on yourself and you're doing things that you love, why would you want someone to ruin that for you? So again, a really important part is to work on yourself and do things for yourself to be happy. And then when you're dating, you're coming into that space as just the best version of yourself, and your standards naturally raise way higher because you're like, I'm not gonna let Chad over here ruin my happiness. I've got so many amazing things in my life and I want a man who's gonna add to that. And if this is hard for you to do, date more people at once, honestly. And that doesn't mean sleeping with them. It just means going on dates, letting them treat you, and living your best life. Okay, the last tip, step number 5, is to show, don't tell. Women are naturally amazing at communicating, and we are amazing as emotional leaders in a relationship. It's very natural for us to be in touch with our feelings, to communicate in terms of this is how I feel, and I feel this way because of XYZ, and this is what I need, and blah, blah, blah. And we can go on forever and ever. And that is amazing, and that is a strength, a big strength that we bring to the table that's equal to a man's strength. And this is what pisses me off about feminism, but we're not even going to get into that. The masculine men, boys, guys, whatever, react so much better and understand so much better when you show them, instead of going on and on and on about what you don't like, how it's making you feel, blah, 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 blah. It's amazing that you have that awareness and you can communicate it once and then zip it. And this is why nagging, which we're very good at as women, doesn't work with men, because they're just like, okay, tra-la-la. So if he does something you don't like, if it's disrespectful, if he's crossed a boundary, tell him once. I didn't like it when you did that. It made me feel really disrespected. Done, silence. That is a boundary. It's a rule. It doesn't need to be an essay. You just say it, zip it, and you don't repeat it. If they continue with that pattern, it's up to you to decide if you want that in your life. Obviously depends on how serious the issue is or the boundary crossing is, or you can just be bored with the behavior. Oh my God, I don't know if I've ever made this long of a video. Let me know if you'd like the longer ones or if you'd rather me slice this down to shorter videos. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it helpful. I hope it wasn't too controversial. I don't think it is, but you never know in this world. And yeah, let me know your thoughts on all of these tips. If you're gonna try any, let me know which one. And I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching and listening, and I will see you soon. Bye.